All right, let's take a look at our study guide for Unit 2. Okay, we've got a couple of different things that we need to go over. This video is going to consist of looking at our standard form, our classifying, and our simplifying. The next video will take a look at our factoring and our solving by factoring. Okay, so let's take a look right at the front, looking at writing polynomials in standard form. And again, you got to remember with standard form, we have to look in terms of alphabetical order and in terms of the highest degree. Okay, highest degree being the largest exponent. So if we take a look here at number 1, we can see that every single term except for the constant has a value of a in there. So we don't have to worry about alphabetical order, but what we do have to look at is the highest exponent. So we can see that our term with the highest exponent is that 3a to the fourth, so that's where our polynomial has to start, is 3a to the fourth. Then we look at the next highest exponent, which is the positive 2a to the third. Okay, 2a to the third. And then we have a positive a squared. There's nothing in front of this a squared, so it has to be positive. There's no negative sign. So we have a positive a squared. And then we only have one other term that has an a in it, which is the whole minus 7a. Okay, that negative has to come around with it. And then we have a minus 4 attached onto it. Okay? Now we can do the same thing here in number 2, except in number 2 we can see we have both x's and y's. Now, remember, we have to look in terms of alphabetical order. So we look at our x's first. We look at the highest exponent first. The highest exponent of the x being this 2x to the third. So we've got a 2x to the third. Then we look at again at our x's, no x, x to the first, and then we have our x squared, which is a minus x squared y for that term. And then we only have one other x term left, which is the minus 3xy squared. And then we're left with a positive 8y to the third. Okay? So again, we look at the alphabetical order with our terms in terms of x and y. But then we also look at the highest exponent of those alphabetical terms. Okay? All right, then we went into our classifying polynomials, and there are two things we have to look for with classifying. The first thing being the degree, which is the highest exponent, and the second thing being the number of terms. Okay, how many terms do we actually see here? So there's a chart in your notes. There's a couple of tables in your notes that go through both of them and what those terms are. I suggest that you know what those are because, again, you're not given them for your test. So if we look here at number 3, we can see that the highest exponent that we have is a 1. And if you look in your notes, you look at your table, you'll see if it has a degree of 1, that tells us it's linear. Okay, so I have a linear. And now I have to figure out, well, how many terms do I have? Well, I have a 3x and a 12. That's 2 terms. So that means that if I look in my number of terms list, that tells me it is a binomial. Okay? So the full classification of this is a linear binomial. Okay? If we look here at number 24, or number 4, which is just the number 24, we can see that there is no x on here, which tells us it has a degree of 0. And again, on our list, if we have a degree of 0, that is a constant, which we already know because we have constants in all of our other ones. Okay, we have a constant right up here. This minus 4 is our constant term. And we only have one term here. It's only the 24. One term, that's a monomial. Okay, so again, this would be a constant monomial here. Oops. All right. Let's take a look here at number 5. Number 5, we can see that we have a highest exponent of 2, and in our list, that is a quadratic. Okay, so a quadratic, and we can see that we have 1, 2, 3 terms here, and so if we have 3 terms, that is a trinomial. So the full classification here is a quadratic trinomial. All right, and the last one that we've got number 6 here, and we look for the degree, highest exponent being a 4. That tells me it is a quartic. Okay, so we have a quartic, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms here. And if we have at least 4 terms, so if we have 4 or more terms, we just classify this as a polynomial. Okay, means many terms. Okay, so this is a quartic polynomial for its full classification. All right, so that's looking at standard form and at our classifying. And the last thing for this video is going to be looking at the simplification. Okay, now notice I crossed off numbers 15 and 16. I don't want you to focus on those for me. All right, so let's take a look here. Let's look at number 7 first. So on number 7, what do you notice? What you should notice is this big subtraction sign right in the middle. That means I'm not multiplying, I'm just combining like terms, but I have to look at my subtraction. Okay, now with subtraction, the first polynomial always stays the same. So this 2x squared plus 3x plus 2 is going to stay the same. And then this second set of terms, because this negative is here, I have to change every single one of their signs. So this positive x squared becomes a negative x squared. The negative the negative 4x becomes a positive 4x, and the minus 1 becomes a positive 1. And now I can see I don't have any parentheses, I got rid of them, and now I'm just combining my like terms. I'm looking at my x squareds, 2 minus 1 gives me a 1x squared. Okay, then I look at my x's, 3x plus 4x to give me a positive 7x. And then a 2 plus 1 to give me a positive 3. Okay, so we change the terms in the right side by, making them the opposite, and then we combined all of our terms. Okay, pretty simple. All right, if we look at number 8, we can see that we have one term multiply a monomial multiplied by a binomial, and this is where we're just doing our distribution. Okay, so if we take a look here, we're going to use our product rule, right? Multiply coefficient to coefficient, 2 times 5 to give us the 10. Then we look at our variables, a times a squared. We add the exponents to give us a 10a to the third. Okay? Then when we do the same thing with the 2a times the negative 7b to the third, 2 times negative 7 to give us a minus 14. I have an a out front, but there's no a to combine it with, so that a has to just come with it. And then I have a b to the third inside and nothing else to add it to, so that b to the third is going to be just added onto the end. And I can't combine anything because they don't have the same terms, so we're done. Okay. All right, let's look at number 12 here, or not number 12, number 11. Number 11, we can see we have a multiplication because there's no addition, there's no subtraction sign in between the parentheses like there was up here. So this is just distribution. Take your first term, your x, multiply it to the other parentheses. X times 4x gives us 4x squared. X times negative 3 gives us the negative 3x. Okay, we've done everything we can with the x. Now we do everything, the same exact thing, but with the negative 1. Multiply the negative 1 to the 4x and the negative 3. Negative 1 times 4x, negative 4x. And negative 1 times negative 3, positive 3. All right? And again, remember, we did a bunch of problems like these where we do our multiplication. And remember, the only thing we can do is combine the two terms that are in the middle. So the 4x squared is going to stay the same. Then the negative 3x minus 4x combine to make a negative 7x. And this positive 3 is going to stay. All right? Okay, one more here before we stop this video, and you can then go watch the other one. Number 12. So if we take a look here, number 12, notice we have this square on the outside. You have to remember, when you have a exponent on the outside here, we're not just distributing it. We need to rewrite it. We need to rewrite this 5y minus 1 all squared as 5y minus 1 times 5y minus 1, and then we do the distribution just like we did in number 11. 5y times 5y, 25y squared. 5y times negative 1, negative 5y. Then negative 1 times 5y, again, negative 5y. And negative 1 times negative 1, positive 1. And again, those middle terms can combine. So the 25y squared stays the same. The negative 5y minus 5y becomes a negative 10y. And this plus 1 stays the same. Okay? All right, so that's your first video. Again, we covered writing polynomials in standard form, classifying our polynomials, utilizing the tables that you have in your notes, and then we talked about simplifying by addition, subtraction, and multiplication. Okay, so make sure that you work through numbers 9, 10, 13, and 14, because we can go through those together either on Monday or Tuesday. And then we can go on and look at another video. All right, so finish those ones up for me and then go to the next video.